number 5. The messages are worldwide in scope. In other words, the messages are of heavenly origin. They're to be proclaimed by human beings with the utmost velocity, with great power, and they are to be proclaimed in all of the world. Now listen to what I'm going to tell you. Most Christians today, most conservative Christians that is, evangelicals, Pentecostals, etc., believe that the three angels' messages are actually messages that will be proclaimed during the tribulation after the church has been raptured to heaven. In fact, they believe that everything from Revelation 4 all the way through Revelation chapter 19 applies to the Jews in the Middle East after the church has been raptured to heaven. But my question regarding that is this. If this message, or these messages, because it's one message composed of 3 parts, if these messages are to be proclaimed only to the Jews, why do we find that it says that these messages are supposed to go to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people? Obviously, these messages are not only for the Jews in the Middle East. These messages are to be proclaimed on a worldwide scale, which means that in order to proclaim them, you have to have a worldwide people to announce them. I'm just throwing that out. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. A worldwide message being proclaimed necessitates a worldwide people that understands these messages and is willing to go out and preach these messages. These messages are to go to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. They are global in extent. Notice Matthew chapter 24 and verse 14. You notice that the first angel's message speaks about preaching the everlasting gospel. And then when you get to the end of the 3 angels' messages, you have the harvest. In other words, Jesus is seated on a cloud. He has a sickle on his hand. The end has come. The earth has been harvested. In other words, the preaching of the gospel has come to an end. Now I want you to notice what Jesus said in harmony with this. Matthew 24 and verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached where? In all the world, as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. And in Mark chapter 16, the last few verses, it says, and he said to them, Jesus says to the disciples, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Go into all the world and preach what? And preach the gospel to whom? To the Jews? No. Preach the gospel to all the world. He who believes and is baptized will be saved, but he who does not believe will be condemned. So what is the purpose of the 3 angels' messages? The purpose of the 3 angels' messages is to proclaim the gospel, to gather as many people as possible into God's camp. In other words, to gather as many people as possible onto God's side. That's the purpose of the 3 angels' messages. They go to every nation because Jesus, through the gospel, wants to conquer the world for himself. But do you know something very interesting that we're going to study later on in Revelation? And that is that the devil also has 3 counterfeit angels' messages. You say, now how is that? Go with me to Revelation chapter 16. We're just going to briefly introduce this. Revelation chapter 16. And I want to read verse 13 and verse 14. 16, verse 13 and verse 14. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs. Let me ask you, what are unclean spirits? What were the unclean spirits that Jesus cast out when he was on this earth? Demons. And what are demons? Fallen angels. Thank you very much.